All right, in today's episode, we sit down with Angie Sedore from Safe Harbor. It's a nonprofit, and their mission is to rescue every man, woman, and child from human trafficking. She's got an incredible story that you are not going to believe. Let's go. Hey, welcome to the North Idaho Experience. We are a podcast about the people of North Idaho. So if you're from here or you're North Idaho curious, welcome. Happy to have you. Today's guest is Angie Sedore from Safe Harbor. Their mission is to rescue every man, woman, and child from human trafficking. Obviously, from our prior law enforcement background, this is near and dear to our hearts, and it's an important mission. So we wanted to have her on here today to bring some awareness, because it is an issue here, as it is everywhere, and then kind of dive into what they're doing and potentially how you guys could help out there, help them with their mission. So Angie, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm so grateful to be here.
Yeah. So give us the scoop on what Safe Harbor is.
Yeah, so I founded Safe Harbor almost 3 years ago, and I'm very passionate about anything anti-human trafficking because I'm actually a sex trafficking survivor myself.
Oh my gosh, I did not know that.
Yeah, and so I just I want to take what happened to me, what my healing and recovery journey was, and just be able to help other people. I know that how I got through it isn't necessarily going to be the way for everybody. I understand that. But I know that is exactly why I went through what I went through, is to be able to help others get out of it, to jump in the hole, just love on them, give them some grace, because to be perfectly honest, we are a very difficult breed. Mm-hmm. And so I just feel like I've just been graced with just the heart for it. And that's my purpose on this earth, is to be able to help.
Oh my gosh!
Those that have gone through that.
Can you give us a little bit about your background? I know it seems like you're pretty open about it, so we're not treading on any super sensitive areas.
Not at all. Okay. So it was in my early 20s, and I like to tell my story because it's very unorthodox. Mm-hmm. It's not. I wasn't kidnapped and drugged, and just this, unfortunately, taken movie version of what happens. I think that really distorted a lot of people's views on what trafficking looks like. But raised in a really good home, Christian family, like very, very conservative. My parents were the youth pastors. Like, you would have never guessed that something like that would have happened to somebody like me. And so I got out of, I went to college, and I experienced life in a way that I wasn't raised with, and it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks, and it was new and it was fun, and I did all the things, and then I got in a ton of debt because I was young and I didn't know what I was doing, and so because of that, I had to take a break from school and get a full-time job. And during the whole time I was in school, like, I was with this entourage of like girls. And we worked at two places. We worked at a gym and a Mexican restaurant. And they were owned by a couple, a male and female couple. And we got really close to the gym owner, who was like, he had swagger. He was very charismatic. He just took all of us girls under his wing. Like, he was just like, he was our go-to guy, And so, he developed these relationships with us throughout the years. And just, I trusted him. Like, I felt like he was maybe even took like that father figure place in my life. I had a great relationship with my dad, but you don't go to your parents anymore when you're in your 20s, right? Mm-hmm. You're looking for other people, other influences. And so when I got in this really bad financial place and I had to quit school, get a full-time job, then all of my student loans and credit card, they all started to come after me, wanted to garnish my wages. And I'm like, oh God, what am I going to do? So I reached out to one of my best girlfriends, and she's like, well, you just need to call so-and-so, the gym owner, he'll help you out. Well, what I didn't realize at the time was she was actually recruiting me because he had already been sex trafficking her. Oh. I had no idea. And so she always had cash on hand, and she loved to gamble. So we just thought, oh, she's a really good gambler, Mm-hmm. So I did. I went to him, and because he had been grooming me for so many years and just like putting little seeds in my head, like things like, gosh, Angie, you give it away for a cheeseburger. Why wouldn't you give it away for money? It just doesn't make any sense. And, my God, my frontal lobe hadn't even fully developed yet. So many things that he said made sense to me, And so And I didn't know, I was just so naive. Oh my God, like I didn't realize how much influence he had in my life. And like little things like if I got into trouble and he was my first call, he would praise me for it. Like he would make me feel like just so good that I went to him. I can't believe you came to me. Like, God, that's so amazing. So it would make me want to go to him for everything. And so just little things like that over time. And so when I finally went to him with this financial problem, he was waiting for that. And so that's when he asked me to have sex for money. And because I had been groomed by him for so long and I really, really trusted him and I really thought that he genuinely loved me, I said yes. And the first time was with him, and I got blackout drunk to force myself to go through with it. And then that just opened the door for so many things to come, because what I learned later on is that he was actually the head of the Mexican cartel for that region.
Oh, dang.
And so he made me feel like this was my jam, like you're in control. He gave me a title, like at that age, like he knew that I liked power and I liked to be in control. And so he tried to make me feel like I was totally in control. He let me experience a life that I was raised really poor. And so like, oh, fine dining and like, this is what this life looks like. Let me teach you about fine wines and all these things that were like, wow, this is amazing, as a young woman, like, oh my God, like these are all things that I had never experienced before. And so then he started having me meet with his clients or his people that he worked with. And at the time I didn't know. I just figured maybe he's a drug dealer. Like he always had brand new cars. Like nobody in the community really knew what he did. Okay, he's a business owner. He did counseling for like kids, like just a total dirty bird. Yeah. So yeah.
Was this up here or somewhere else?
No, it was in Albuquerque.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that went on, for several years. And honestly, in it, I thought I'm not a victim type person. I'm like a survivorist. I like to survive. And so I'm thinking, as I'm going through it, I'm like, okay, how can I make this better for myself? So I'm thinking, I want his job. I want to, when I found out what he did and when he trusted me enough to like share with me what he actually did for a living, I'm like, I want in. Like that's what I saw. That's what I thought I would be doing with my life, is I'd be somewhere higher up in the cartel. Probably never would have happened, thinking back, because he started to give me like other jobs within the cartel. And I thought, oh, I'm working my way up because I'm just a very ambitious woman. But that's literally what I thought I would do the rest of my life.
Did it put you in a dark spot ever?
Yes. Oh my God. I don't know how I'm alive, to be perfectly honest. I was in a lot of very scary, compromising positions, and I feel like it's only because I had a praying mom that I'm here right now.
Yeah, I imagine some of the people that you were around at that point in time incredibly violent.
Oh yeah, they didn't care about me.
Right.
Yeah.
How old were you when that started?
I was 23.
And I think you're bringing up a really important topic, because 100% I think people think human trafficking, they automatically assume that it's like what's portrayed in movies where somebody's kidnapped at 16, 17 years old. And I think grooming is far more common.
Yes.
When you actually read the definition of what human trafficking is, it's happening all the time, especially with young girls, 19, 20 years old, with and I know I always go back to it, right? But with a substance like fentanyl or meth, it's so easy to get somebody completely hooked and addicted to that.
Yeah,
and the lure of money in that world, right? Yeah,
100%.
Yep.
Yeah, and then we have the internet and social media, and that's like a whole nother thing that a lot of people don't think about, is that like when we look at the definition for Idaho of what trafficking actually is, what falls underneath of that is like sexual exploitation of a child, voyeurism, like these things that are happening here all the time. People are actually in our jail as we speak for sexual exploitation of a child and voyeurism. And it falls underneath the definition of what trafficking is. And so that's a lot of what we deal with is like parents coming to me and they're like, oh my God, I've looked on my kid. So we had a kid that was 9 years old. And her parents, she was the youngest of all of her siblings. And so her parents were like, we're doing it right this time. We're homeschooling her. We're not going to let her stay the night at people's houses. Like, we really want to protect her. And so the only thing they would allow her to look at on the iPad was rodeos. She loved rodeos. She loved horses. She liked bull riding. And so other than doing her homework, that was the one thing she got to look at. Well, a little ad popped up while she was watching this bull riding. And she clicked on it, and it was this cartoon. It was like a pornographic cartoon of a kid that had been kidnapped and groomed for sexual reasons. And it even says at the beginning, like, this video contains pornographic and Satanism, like all these things, you know? And then it awakens something in a child, right? Like that they didn't even realize was in them. And then they're like curious. And now they're hiding it and they're looking at it more. And then this person that puts this video out there starts to communicate with this little girl back and forth. And so the mother calls us devastated. We got, Nate involved with the innocent as well. And because that's their jam. It's like going after the predator. Mm-hmm. We did everything right. And somebody still got to our daughter.
Right.
Because it's that easy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's just the new world. I've long thought, and I'm curious from your perspective and being immersed in this now and having gone through that, I've long thought that at some point in time, all of these things are going to become available. And I'm just not sure that sheltering all the way up to 18 is the best answer, because it seems to be the things that are available get worse as you get older, or the people that you're around, or those things that would lead or precursor to that lifestyle. So I don't know. I'm torn. I'd love for kids to grow up and stay as innocent for as long as they can, but you almost don't have the option but to empower them with some knowledge.
I think you have to. That's how we've raised our kids, and they're, as far as I know, very aware of stuff like this. We've had frank conversations with them since they were very little, and I remember family members talking to us, be like, I don't think you should tell them about that. And I'm like, well,
who else is going to tell them?
Right. I kind of would rather have them know than, like you said, be innocent up till 18 and then easily swayed into something like that. I think awareness is always better.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, and it's not just parents, right? I mean, I told you at schools when I was talking about and teaching about drugs and availability, and tell me if I'm wrong, but those two go hand in hand. I mean, drug addiction and trafficking. But there were school members and parents that didn't want us to have that talk with kids that were 15, 16. They're like, no, it'll make them curious. I said, no. Man, you have to.
They're already curious.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to trust them and arm them with some knowledge. They're young adults, and whether we like it or not, it is going to be their decision. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
You can tell them how bad it is. You're not going to be able to protect them, especially in this world.
No kidding.
Back in the day, there was a big argument yesterday at Patriot Pour about libraries and what's available in a library. And it's like, man.
But
the argument, it's a Google search. They can get
no kidding
everything.
It's so much. They're not going to go to the library. It's right here.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean I'm not for regulation of what's publicly available with our tax dollars, but know that kids, if you take away their smartphone, you know what happens in schools that parents don't know about? Their friends have a burner phone and they give them, and then they use their Wi-Fi. Like, oh, weird. It's out there.
It is. And if you're not the one influencing your kids, somebody else is going to.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's something we always tell our parents is that be that safe person that your kid can come to for everything, and you're not going to freak out. You're not going to shame them. Like, you need to be the person that they know, no matter what, they can ask you, what is this?
Yeah.
Because if they're not, they can't ask you. They're going to ask somebody out there on the internet is waiting for them
to ask them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because you don't get to pick their source.
No.
Yeah.
You don't.
No.
Can we backtrack a little bit?
Yes.
How did you get out? How did you realize you needed to get out, and then what did you do?
Well, I didn't realize that I needed to get out.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't even realize what was happening to me was wrong probably until, I don't know, 10 years ago. So, I met my husband, and up until that point, I was living multiple lives, and I was really good at it. And it's kind of messed me up today, like how I compartmentalize everything in my life now. Sometimes it's beneficial, but a lot of times it's like I forget things all the time because that's what I learned. I taught myself how to do. Like if it's not important, then I forget it, And so because I was living all these different lives and being all these different people to everybody, I was a different person to my parents. I was a different person to the person I was dating. It was nuts. I had to keep all my lies straight.
So you were able to maintain relationships while doing this.
Yep.
And your parents had no idea either.
Nope.
Wow.
This is a little off subject, and I have ADHD, so I'm probably going to
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, you're in good company.
But I was actually heckled. So I had an event in March, and I was telling my story in depth, and had a woman heckle me from the audience when I was talking about like how my parents didn't know. And she's like, "Well, weren't they Christians?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, How did they not know?" And I'm like, "Because I didn't tell them." And then, "Well, why didn't you just leave?" And this is a woman in the audience, like at an anti-human trafficking fundraising event. And then she said, "Well, you must have been weak."
Wow.
Wow. Yeah. And that's just like the lack of awareness.
That's
People
the
just
wool
don't
over her eyes.
People
She
just
doesn't see the
they don't
world.
understand.
Yeah.
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 That's frustrating that you had to deal with that while
From
you're at
the
an
stage.
event. Right. Okay, like, come on.
I know. And I'm not angry with that person. It's just people just don't understand.
Yeah, but you have such a good perspective. Some of the things that you've encountered and seen and witnessed and endured, you're like, this is nothing.
Yeah.
To
Yeah,
me right
yeah,
now.
exactly.
Yes, ma'am, I understand your opinion. Thank you. So anyways, back to
yeah.
what I was discussing. You know?
Back to why we're actually here.
Yes.
So anyways, like I said before, it's just the grace of God that I even got out. So up until me meeting my husband, I always dated like drug dealers, gangbangers. That's just what I was naturally attracted to. I was broken. So when I met my husband, he was the only guy that actually respected me, didn't want to sleep with me right away. And it was because of my upbringing, I knew in my head that intellectually this man was the type of man that you marry, even though it wasn't a natural I wasn't naturally pulled towards somebody like that. So I married him, and I actually invited the Cartel boss and his wife to my wedding, and I'm really grateful they didn't show up. But he let me go after I got married.
Really?
Yeah.
I was going to ask how you got out.
Yeah.
That process was like interesting.
So, I mean, even though he's not a good human being, he had that in him.
Yeah.
There's like a code somewhere in there, right? Like not a good human at all out there, like pulling on weaknesses of young, vulnerable women most of the time, but men too, I'd assume. But there still is that code somewhere in there. That's wild. So how long total? So you were 23. When did you get married?
3 years. 3 years total.
Now, here's a strange question. Did you want to leave?
I've never been asked that before. I want to say yes and no. My lifestyle didn't really change after I got married. So my husband and I have been married to each other twice. So I brought all of that brokenness and all of those habits and addictions, everything, I brought that into our marriage. And I still lived multiple lives for 7 years of our first marriage. And so I could say, I did want to leave, but then I didn't quit. I couldn't shut it off because I didn't know I was broken. I didn't know that what I was doing was wrong. I had been taught to never say no. And so that brought a lot of other problems into my marriage. And so it actually took my marriage falling apart and me to finally hit that rock bottom to start seeking help and recovery. And it was it was a 2-year process for me to go through recovery, find out what the root issues were of why I was the way I was. Sex addiction fell into that as a consequence of all of that behavior. And so I was able to work through that for 2 years, and God brought me and my husband back together after that. And he ended up going through recovery himself. And it was a whole thing. We're actually two very completely different people now because of walking through all of that with each other. But yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, he sounds like a good man.
He's an amazing man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's crazy. So you guys got married the second time, but it was almost like two entirely new people getting married. For the
Totally
first time.
different.
Yeah.
Totally different. Yeah.
How long have you been married now total?
Totaled, so 7 years the first time, apart for 2 years, and then I'm really bad at this. We even forget each other's
Didn't
anniversary
mean to put you on
all
the spot.
time, so
Same. Don't feel bad.
Roughly.
All the time.
17 years total.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
awesome.
Wow. Wild.
That is wild.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've gone through a lot. When did you start Safe Harbor? And then what was the motivation there? Obviously, I mean, I can see why. But
Yeah, and
you could
honestly,
have just drifted away and forgotten about everything, right? That would be one path.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would do that too, right?
think so, too.
Because they
You
wouldn't
wanna
be able
forget.
to. You wouldn't want people to ever associate you with that. So it's incredibly honorable what you're doing. Because otherwise, you could just put it away and write a new chapter without anybody knowing any of your other ones.
Right, you run the risk of like that woman heckling you,
Yeah.
like being judged,
yeah,
right?
Yep.
And I mean, you have to put yourself out there, and that's hard, I imagine.
Yeah.
Like you're telling us this stuff, and
Yeah, because it's not the first time telling it. Let me
Right,
tell you,
yeah.
the first time was like freaking out.
yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
so yeah, you definitely, and that's, I have a podcast as well. It's called The Survivor's Voice. And the whole purpose of that podcast is for people to tell their story, because every time you tell your story, it loosens its hold on you.
Yeah.
It lessens the power. And so I love telling my story now, because it's like, I know that I'm just going to get stronger and stronger and stronger because of it.
that's a good point. I mean, we can relate to that from like post-traumatic stress from being a cop or a firefighter or whatever. The old way was to bottle it up inside and let it fester into a little cancer.
And
but-
drink. That was
and
the
drink.
thing.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
That's what everybody
but, you know,
says.
like people are getting better now. Like we do this a lot. We tell the stories that bugged us the most, and you're absolutely right. The more you tell that story, like I don't think about it anymore. I
Yeah.
put it out there. It's
Yeah,
gone.
so true.
Yeah,
Yeah, I totally forgot what you asked me.
I did too.
No. Well, what you were getting to is, what motivated you to do that.
yeah.
Oh, yes,
You're-
thank you.
You're
Yes.
breaking through the stigma, though, because there is a stigma attached to that. And I think it's more common than people give it credit for. This isn't a Hollywood script. I mean, every day you immerse yourself in the criminal element. And was addiction a part of yours?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Was it
So,
opiates?
Clearly, alcohol was a big, big deal for me. But, so I did get addicted to Coke during that time. I can also like quit something like that too. But Coke, weed, I know they all started to snort freaking, what's the ADHD drug?
Oh, Ritalin?
Yeah.
Or is that Adderall?
Adderall. Yeah. That's one thing I didn't do. But nothing too totally hardcore. I've never done meth. Now, a lot of my friends shot up heroin. I didn't do that. I was terrified of needles.
Good thing you never went down that road.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, for sure.
That's a hard one to come back from. And I think it would be very easy for someone in your position to go down that road and instead of facing it, right, they just push it until they die.
Suppress
it.
Right? Suppress it
Yeah.
until
And I've had friends that have overdosed.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because what you're describing is there was some tendency to go back to the lifestyle. You were almost addicted to the lifestyle.
Oh, 100%.
Right.
Oh
As
my
opposed
God.
to the chemical
Yes.
addiction of a narcotic.
Totally.
Wild.
So then whoever it was that I was with, whatever they were doing, I just do it with them.
Right.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. So getting back to your question, I actually remembered. So when my husband and I moved up here, it'll be 8 years in September. We were actually just starting to read court at the time, and so we started going to church together. It's a whole nother story. He was an atheist when I met him, so that's a whole nother topic. So we started to go to church together, and there was a guy at our church talking about how he was going to be starting a church in Coeur d'Alene. We knew nothing about Coeur d'Alene, never heard of it before. Well, my husband at that time felt like God told him that we needed to come up here and help him. He waited to tell me because our relationship was so fresh again. So when he told me, it was very difficult for me because I am Latina. We don't leave our families. If anything, we move in with them for the rest of our lives. Like my mom was devastated that he brought me this far away. So I just went on his faith. I'm like, okay, I'm going to trust that you know what you're doing. Let's go. So we moved here sight unseen. Never met anybody here. Like never seen the place. It was. I had a panic attack like the whole way here. It was so hard for me. But so it's like he found his people here. Like he belongs here. Like he should have been born here. It took me about 4.5 years to like figure out like why am I here? I was so stagnant and so dry and just like, oh my God, like why the hell did you bring me here? That's how I felt, you know? And so one night I was by myself. I was drinking some wine. My husband was at fishing league. And I'm like yelling at God once again, like, why the hell am I here? And I had this very like quick, just out of body experience where he's just like brought me back to my past, walked me through like what he brought me through, walked me through the last 4.5 years that I had been here, like who I had met, the jobs that I had, like all the things and why he had waited until this moment to say, okay, this is what I want you to do. And that's when, you know, it was like, okay, I want you to start an anti-human trafficking foundation. I never thought that's something I'd be doing, honestly. I mean, I thought maybe I'd help. When I was in Albuquerque, I was helping young people like with their addictions or, you know, I was just trying to mentor them or sponsor them. And so I never thought it would be on this level. And so I was all right, well, let's go. Like, let's do this because I was so tired of not having a purpose. That's not who I am. I have to have a purpose. And so it's just been like snowballing ever since then.
Was it, I mean, imagine the people you knew up here at the time. Did they know anything about your background? Or when you came out with this, people were like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
She's
it was
on the PTA board. You know?
Oh, and then that's another piece of it. Like I could have never done this back home. I couldn't because everybody knew me there.
I was going to ask you about that.
I would have had no credibility.
Well, not only that, but in hindsight, I mean, the fact that there was an addiction to that lifestyle, there is something, because I'll tell people a lot, they get in trouble continuously here and they'll go a year clean and then they'll fall back. Maybe the best thing is to move.
No
Yeah.
kidding. For real.
Because then
Lose all of those connections.
Yes.
Because your brain is a weird thing. It associates seeing things with pleasure. It associates smells with pleasure.
Yep.
And if you see the same people, I'd imagine it's like somewhere deep in there, it clicks it on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you got that buddy and you know he's a shitbag, but you love him and you're like, hey, you want to hang out? And then next thing you know.
Yeah.
Every
easy
time.
to slide
It
back
is
into.
so
Yes.
easy.
Or the people that have gotten out of the life, right? I say that all the time. It's hard for them to look in the mirror when they see you clean or free of it. And it's a natural instinct.
Sure.
It's like the lobster in a pot. Like lobsters reaching out, climbing out. What do the other lobsters do? They grab them and pull them back in.
Yep.
And I just think it's a natural instinct for people that knew before what your lifestyle was like to try to pull you back in to make them feel better about the lifestyle they're living.
True.
So you moving up here might have
Oh my God.
helped tremendously.
Oh, I had no idea. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Man.
So, okay. So you have this idea.
Yeah.
I'm going to start this anti-human trafficking thing. Where do you even begin?
So I had already been, so I was friends with 3 people that already had 501c3s. I was already helping them on their committees, fundraise, whatever. So I had that experience, which was great. But the first thing I did was I texted my friend who has a nonprofit, and I'm like, this is what I want to do. I don't know what I'm doing. And so she's like, she gave me the first couple steps. So I did that. And then one of my best girlfriends, she's like insane marketer, like has all the connections, and she's really pushy, and I love that about her. So, because you have to be around people that are going to push you to be a better person or push you into your purpose. And so the day I got my 501c3 status, my dad went into ICU. He had COVID. It was 2020. And he ended up passing away, and it really, like, it destroyed. I felt like it destroyed everything. Like the language I had for what I was doing, like all of the momentum just was like obliterated. And so my friend, my pushy friend, I met with her during that time, and she's like, all right, like enough is enough. Like let's let's start focusing on your 501c3. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, do you feel brave? And I said, yeah. She's like, start making calls. We're going to do that. I wanted to do, my first fundraiser was a run called Run Against Traffic. And she's like, you want to do this run? Let's do it. Start making calls to the city. Let's see who you can get a permit for. It was like in a month and a half. She's like, let's schedule it in a month and a half. Let's just do it. I'm like, okay. So we just started doing it, and we did it. And then that just started to give me like the courage to start doing other things. And I'm just grateful for her that she pushed me when I was in a really like dark place.
We all need people like that in our lives.
Yeah.
Doers.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
everybody gets in a rut.
Oh my
Sure.
God.
You need the friend that's just
Accountability.
going to punch you right out of it. Like,
For real.
yes, unapologetically punt you out of it.
Yeah.
So, okay. How does your organization affect change in the community? What do you guys do?
Yeah, so our big vision, and this is what we're constantly working towards, and everything takes money, is to be able to have a facility where survivors can come, not just in North Idaho, because what we're finding on a national level is there's not enough places and there's not enough funding for people to go to get the help they need. Because what happens is most of the time, what I have found is a survivor doesn't want to stay where they're being trafficked. They want to get out. They want to get away. They want to go to another state. Get me out of here to get help. So a lot of times what we do is we will facilitate with other aftercare programs out of state, buy their plane ticket, make sure they get there safely, coordinate with the aftercare program somewhere else. But we also, I feel like it's such a refuge here and it's such a safe space here in North Idaho that we would like to be able to have a space that is safe, that other people can come in a very remote area to get the healing and the help they need. So that's our big vision.
Yeah, like a retreat.
Yes.
Connect them with nature because that's always huge healing thing. Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
And so in the interim, what we have done is, in the beginning when I had, a survivor call and they needed help and I'm like, okay, look, let's get you some trauma-informed care. Let's get you into some therapy. They were booked a couple months, and you miss an opportunity because it takes so much courage to finally ask for help. Might not happen again.
Right. Especially 2 or 3 months down the road.
Yeah. So we have a contract with Cultivation Counseling, and they have a few different places here locally. They actually have some therapists that specialize in sex trafficking. And so they always keep a spot open for a survivor to get help right away. And so that's kind of how we're trying to mitigate that issue. And then we also have, a 24-hour line so that, somebody's always available via phone if that phone call comes in. And we get calls, from everywhere, locally and also, all over the United States to get help.
Wow.
How prevalent is human trafficking or sex trafficking here in North Idaho?
I would say it's just as prevalent as it is anywhere else.
Really?
Yeah.
We're somewhat secluded up here, but we are very close to Spokane. Is some of that spillover from there?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
That's a surprise to a lot of people, I would
It
think.
is a surprise. Yeah.
Yeah. So you get a call. What do you do? Like, say a young girl calls you.
Yeah.
I imagine it's easier for you to build a connection because you can share your story.
Yeah.
Do you meet with them? Like, what's the immediate?
I have met with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just depends on the situation. Every single call is different. Every call. So, like, the first thing I'm going to ask is, are you safe? Are you in a safe space right now? I've only had one time that they weren't. So I was able to, like, this was up in, like, Old Town. Mm-hmm. And I was able to work with a facility up there that they don't do anti-human trafficking, but they help like domestic violence. And so put her up in a hotel.
Like a safe passages?
Similar.
Okay.
Yeah. So we helped facilitate her to get into a hotel, which was safe. And then I ended up going up there to meet her because we got her a bus ticket to an aftercare program in California, and she had no money, and she had a dog. And so we gave her a $500 like MasterCard because we're not going to give them cash.
Right.
So that she could, and then we bought her bus ticket. but we want to make sure that she would be able to feed herself. Like if she needed to stay in a hotel room, she could use that to stay in a hotel room to get over there. So sometimes I meet with them. Sometimes I'm just, okay, you're safe. Great. Let me make some calls. Let me see, how I can help you. Can I text you on this phone number? Like you can know too. You can text me anytime. Like just keeping that open line of communication, and then just finding resource for them. Yeah.
Do you follow them through the entirety
Yes.
of the process and have follow up and all that?
Yep.
What would you say, and again, how hard it is to get out of that lifestyle? Because I'm very familiar with the recidivism rate of drugs, but what would you say your success rate is?
It's hard. It's just gonna suck, but
No, it's real though.
they go back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or they run away from the aftercare program.
Is it just the lifestyle that draws them back, or is it just fear of being on their own? What do you think the biggest thing is?
Oh my God, it's all the things. It's not easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes they'll even use us to get somewhere.
Of course. Right.
And you just don't know.
Yeah,
you just don't know. And, and I even tell my board, like, we always need to know that we did the right thing by them, no matter what they do with our help. Like, we have no control over that. Mm-hmm. Because, a lot of times it's just too easy to go back. Mm-hmm. It's hard. It is hard work. Like, when I went through recovery, it was probably the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. Like to undo all the doing, to create new pathways in your brain, to teach yourself to say no, to teach yourself a different lifestyle. It is hard ass work.
Well, and being real about it, like to teach yourself what a healthy pleasure is.
Oh.
Right?
Oh my God.
Because your brain craves that, and it doesn't care where it gets it.
Yeah.
It in order to feel good and release that dopamine releases, I don't know, it's sciencey stuff. But your brain it doesn't care where it gets it. So retraining yourself to what pleasure, good, healthy pleasure is supposed to be.
It's hard.
And does that, it seems like that work would always be there.
It's always there.
You're right. You're not
it's still there for me now.
Yeah, because there's always going to be a draw.
Constant reevaluation.
Constant.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, it's every day.
Yeah, so you have to be very intentional about your life. Otherwise, and avoid situations, think on it a lot. That makes sense to me.
That would cause that to like come right back.
Right.
And then your brain's like, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
You've got to like redirect yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is probably the same with like drug addiction, like a hardcore drug,
Oh, for
like
sure.
heroin or meth or something. I imagine you have to have an intentional lifestyle all the time.
Yes, or just tools in place or systems in place when you start to see it go and you're like, all right, I'm going to bump myself back.
Or accountability.
Yes.
Yeah. Having people you can be accountable to, where it's like when I was in recovery, they'd have us make a list of like 5 people because maybe that first person won't respond. So you go through your list till somebody responds because you're like, I'm going to act out. I need help, So having accountability and just being honest with people you can trust is very, very helpful.
How has this changed your life since starting Safe Harbor?
I definitely feel more confident, more empowered. And then there's the other side where you get beat up a lot.
Yeah, you're very vulnerable. Right?
Yeah.
You're out there.
Definitely feel attacked a lot too. So, sometimes it comes in waves where you're like on the mountaintop and you're like kicking ass and you're feeling great. And then something happens and you're like, oh my God, you're going through it, So it feels good having a purpose in life for sure.
Do you have any like major success stories that you can fall back on of like someone, maybe not even major, but like a success story where, you can look back and be like, all right.
Yeah. So there was a parent called and she had an autistic daughter. And let me tell you, these traffickers prey on autistic kids.
I've got 2 stories that are exactly that, completely taking advantage of mental anything.
Yeah, because they're so black and white, and they're also looking for acceptance, and so it's almost too easy.
Right.
So the daughter was getting close to turning 18 and graduating from high school, and she had been talking to somebody on Snapchat in Detroit who was like, come live with us. as soon as you turn 18, like come move in up here, they wanted her to bring her social security card, her birth certificate, and I think she had some sort of certificate of disability because of her autism, and they wanted her to bring that too. Like, it was weird.
You think it's to get paid by the state? I would imagine they've got some setup to get. Because I've seen stuff like that before.
Yeah.
Where they'll take advantage and then say that they're not adults, and either way, an incapable adult, so they can get paid.
Shitty fucking people out there.
Oh my God.
Completely taking advantage.
Yeah. So their parents were badass. Like, they were on it. And I was so proud of them, because there's so many parents that just, they don't want to investigate it. They're too angry with their kid. Like, it's like, no, dig in. Find out who they're talking to. Like, they even called the Detroit Police Department. Like, they were on it. So what sucked in this situation was the child was so upset with her parents because they were getting in her life, right?
Yeah.
They moved in with a friend of theirs. She moved in with a friend of theirs. These parents that were harboring this child that wasn't even of age to make their own decisions wouldn't even let the parents come and like check, how's my daughter doing? Is she okay? Nothing. Like,
That was here?
Here.
Was she 18?
Not yet.
That's frustrating.
Yeah. So
they don't get to decide that, by the way,
I
in
know.
the state of Idaho. This isn't Washington where you can make all your own medical decisions when you're 14 years old. State of Idaho, it's 18. You're basically considered property. Sorry, but I'm not sorry. Your parents are going to make your decisions.
Totally.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. So what they were trying to do is get legal power of attorney over her so they could make the decisions for her even after she was 18 because of her autism. Mm-hmm. But they needed her in their custody to be able to do that. And they were afraid that once she left, like that's it, they have no control.
She'd be gone. Yeah.
18 and making her own decisions is what they say. She's of sound mind and making her own decisions. Right.
Yes, exactly. So it took a turn for the best, thank God. They were able to get her back at home, and then because they called law enforcement in Detroit, they went to this person's house. It was like a mom and a girl, like a trans kid, and they reached out to the daughter, and they were so angry with the daughter, and it embarrassed the daughter so much that she ended up not going. And so then they were able to get power of attorney over her, and she's here and she's safe. But she already had her plane ticket.
Oh my gosh.
She had her plane ticket that as soon as she turned 18 and graduated,
She's gone.
she was done.
And they would have had her registered some way, shape, or form. They would have got paid by the state, and at the same time probably would have trafficked and exploited as much as humanly possible.
Yeah. Okay, your podcast. Sorry.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Survivor's Voice.
Yeah.
What do you do? Do you bring people on that have lived this lifestyle?
So we interview anybody that has survived a traumatic event.
Okay.
I mean, we've even interviewed veterans, like any traumatic event that the whole purpose of it is not to exploit their story, but to be able to use their story as, I always ask at the end, okay, how can you inspire somebody that's going through it right now? How to get through it? Like, let's give them hope. Let's encourage them. That's the whole purpose, is to just offer hope to other people that may have been through it and haven't gotten through it or are in it. And like, oh my God, this person got through it. And not only did they get through it, like they're thriving and they're doing all these things with their lives. And so that's the whole purpose of the podcast, is to be able to give hope.
That's
to
awesome.
people.
There is so much power in that, and just hearing someone else's story. Like, even as a cop, you have that salty old guy, and you look up to him, and he has a moment of vulnerability, like sheds a tear at a crash or whatever, and you're like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
like I'm okay to feel that way.
Yeah, you're not alone.
You're not alone.
I think is the biggest.
Yeah,
You're not
I'm not
going
weak.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. You guys on Spotify?
We're on everything.
YouTube?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So the Survivor's Voice. Check that out.
Somebody to get you in touch with. I'm going to have to reach
Cool.
out to you.
Yay,
Definitely.
thank you.
Is it the guy that's coming on tomorrow?
No.
Oh.
No.
He's been on our podcast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nate?
Yeah.
Good. No,
Yeah.
this is you talk about you take those success stories with you, because there just aren't that many, and the recidivism rate on both sides are high, and they're connected. So those that I have that stay in touch with me, that I hear from all the time, every time they have a big milestone at work, and they're constantly fighting that same brain chemistry that you referenced to go back. And they're, out of all of them, hundreds, there's 2 or 3 that have come out on the other side and are back, and they have their kids and they're living a good life and enjoying that stuff. But somebody like that I think would benefit. And your listeners would too.
Yeah.
How we have some amazing listeners out here, and this is a fantastic community. How can we help?
Yeah. So, we're always looking for donations. Like I said, we can't do anything without money. And, if you have investors that maybe are passionate about, rescuing people out of human trafficking, and we aren't in a place financially because we just had something come up recently, like this massive property in Bonners Ferry, and it would be like the absolute perfect place, but we just don't have the capital to not even pay for electricity there. So it would have to be investors that are like, okay, we're going to invest in this property. We're going to create this center, and then we're going to partner with Safe Harbor where you guys come in, and we can, maybe hire some staff or, some sort of a partnership in that way would be very helpful because, like I said, there's just nowhere here locally for survivors to go.
And I think ideally to be out
Yes.
away.
Yes.
You
right?
said Bonners Ferry. That's what you're thinking.
No easy way to get into town.
Exactly.
And that makes sense to me.
Yes.
Right. Remove the temptation wherever it is.
It'd be perfect if it was in Hope, Idaho. That'd just be perfect.
Yeah. Well, there's some good places up here. Hopefully somebody out there has something like that and is willing to step up because it's so damn important.
Yeah.
You guys have a website?
Yep. It's safeharborforfreedom.com, and that's FOR.
Safe Harbor. We will link that in the show notes. Harborforfreedom.com. Okay.
And the Survivor's Voice is thesurvivorsvoice.net.
Okay. Social media too, or is that kind of thing?
Yep.
Yeah.
Social
Okay.
media.
Instagram, same
All the
stuff.
things,
Safe
yeah.
Harbor. Okay. Cool. Well, Angie Sedore, thank you so much.
I
You're a
learned a lot.
badass.
Thank you.
Yeah. You've been through some shit, but I think the lessons you've learned along the way are going to help other people, and they already have, and that's powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah, your perspective, because you've seen the world, the ugly underbelly, and you can pass that on to others because it's not innocent. And I take away from that, you're out there raising kids, it's not always best to shelter them because the world becomes more dangerous the older you
Talk to your kids.
get. Yes.
Yeah.
And be involved. Pay attention to their apps.
No kidding.
Watch their
Dig
apps.
into their phone. Like,
Yes.
That's not their property, it's yours.
Exactly. Yeah. You're absolutely right. Well, thank you again. Really amazing. Great. Amazing story.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks, Angie.
See you later.